You do not belong in first class. Get out of your seat right now!
Yes! Film her!
Ma'am, you need to get up. Right now. The voice cuts through first class like a blade. Every conversation dies mid-sentence. Ice stops clinking in crystal glasses. Even the low hum of the engines feels like it pulls back, listening. Ava Mitchell doesn't move. She sits in seat 2A, one hand resting lightly on the leather armrest, the other holding a slim tablet. Late afternoon sunlight spills through the oval window, drawing a sharp line across her navy blazer. Clean. Tailored. Quietly expensive. Tiffany Brooks stands over her, posture rigid, smile tight enough to crack. 34. Immaculate uniform. Perfect hair. But her eyes give her away. Not confusion. Not uncertainty. Judgment. First class is for ticketed passengers, Tiffany says, louder this time. Not just to Ava. To everyone watching. You're going to need to move. A pause. Ava looks up. Slowly. Her eyes are steady, dark, unblinking. The kind of gaze that measures a room in seconds and forgets nothing. I have a first-class ticket, she says, voice calm, almost soft. Tiffany's hand shoots out before the sentence even finishes. She snatches the boarding pass from Ava's fingers like she's confiscating evidence. Behind them, a man in seat 1C shifts, already pulling out his phone. Ethan Cole, late 40s, polished shoes, expensive watch, the kind of man who records first and thinks later. Across the aisle, Margaret Doyle leans toward her husband, whispering just loud enough to be heard. They always try this, she murmurs, lips pursed, eyes narrowed with quiet certainty. Tiffany holds the boarding pass up to the light, squinting like she expects it to dissolve. "Mm-hmm," she mutters. That's what they all say. Then she drops it. Not gently. It hits Ava's chest with a sharp, flat sound and slides into her lap. A few passengers flinch. No one speaks. Ava glances down, then back up. Still calm, still unmoving. There's a flicker of something in Tiffany's expression, now. Irritation. The script isn't working the way it usually does. "You're delaying this flight," Tiffany says, louder again. "Performing now. We have paying customers who actually belong up here." A quiet ripple moves through the cabin. Ethan's phone is already raised, recording. His thumb hovers over the screen, then taps. Liv. Margaret nods approvingly, folding her hands over her designer purse. "About time someone said it," she adds, not even pretending to whisper. 2 rows back, Sophia Ramirez shifts in her seat. Late 20s, sharp eyes. She watches Ava, not Tiffany. Something doesn't sit right. Ava reaches down, smooth, unhurried. She picks up the boarding pass and holds it out again. "I'm in seat 2A, she says. Same tone. No edge, no apology. Tiffany doesn't take it this time. Instead, she turns, full body, faces the cabin. "Folks, we've got someone trying to sneak into first class," she announces, voice bright, almost cheerful. A few chuckles, nervous, uneasy. Ethan zooms in. Margaret shakes her head slowly, as if she's seen this story 100 times, and already knows how it ends. Ava lowers her hand. The boarding pass rests against her knee now. Her other hand taps once on her tablet screen. A message sent. No hesitation. No visible urgency. Her breathing doesn't change. Not faster. Not deeper. Controlled. Precise. As if none of this surprises her. As if she has seen rooms like this before. As if she already knows exactly how this ends. Tiffany turns back, folding her arms. "Last chance," she says. "You either move, or I call security." The cabin holds its breath. Ava leans back into her seat. Just slightly. Enough to settle. Enough to anchor herself. Her eyes stay locked on Tiffany. And when she speaks again, Her voice is still quiet. But now it carries. I'm not moving. Tiffany laughs. Not loud at first, just a short, sharp breath through her nose, like she's already bored with how this is going to end. Of course you're not, she says, tilting her head. They never do. She taps her headset. Hard. Yeah, I need security at gate 12A. We've got a non-compliant passenger refusing to move from first class. The words hang in the air. Non-compliant. Passenger. Refusing. Each one lands heavier than the last. Ava doesn't react. But across the aisle, Sophia's fingers tighten around her phone. She doesn't raise it yet. Not like the others. She just watches, eyes moving between Tiffany's posture and Ava's stillness. Something is off. Ethan leans forward in his seat, whispering into his phone like he's narrating a documentary. This is exactly what entitlement looks like, he murmurs, trying to sit somewhere you didn't pay for. His viewers climb, numbers ticking upward in the corner of his screen. Margaret nods again, louder this time. Security should have been called the second she sat down, she says, voice full of conviction. You give them an inch, they take a mile. Ava's gaze doesn't shift, but her phone vibrates once against the tray table. A single buzz. She glances at it. 1 second, then flips it face down. No reaction, no visible change, just information received. Tiffany notices. Of course she does. Oh, she's got people texting now, Tiffany says, rolling her eyes, turning slightly so her voice carries. Probably trying to figure out her story. A few passengers laugh. Not comfortably. But they laugh anyway. Because it's easier than interrupting. Because it's safer to agree. Ava exhales slowly. Not tired. Not stressed. Just measured. Your job, she says, looking directly at Tiffany, is to verify my ticket. Not to speculate. There's a shift. Small, but real. Tiffany's smile tightens. That's exactly what I'm doing, she snaps back. And everything about this situation says something's not right. Everything, Ava repeats softly. Behind them, a man stands halfway out of his seat. Calvin Reed, early 50s, broad shoulders, weathered face. The kind of man who has learned when to speak and when to stay quiet. He hesitates, then clears his throat. Mum, he says, voice steady but careful. I saw her bored. That pass looked fine to me. The cabin turns. Tiffany freezes for half a second, then pivots. Sir, I'm going to need you to remain seated, she says, tone clipped. This doesn't concern you. Calvin doesn't sit. Not yet. It concerns everyone if you're removing someone who paid for their seat, he replies. A ripple moves through the cabin. Uncertainty now. Doubt. Sophia's eyes widen slightly. She leans forward, finally pulling out her phone, but she doesn't hit record. Not yet. She's watching Tiffany, watching how she handles pushback. Tiffany lets out a breath. Sharp, controlled. Security is already on the way, she says, louder now, reclaiming the room. We'll sort it out properly. The words are meant to reassure, but they land like a warning. Heavy footsteps echo from the jet bridge. Slow, deliberate, authority approaching. 2 officers step into the cabin, dark uniforms, broad frames, presence that fills the narrow aisle instantly. The lead officer, Daniel Ruiz, scans the scene. Not slowly, not carefully. Quick, efficient. He looks at Tiffany first. What's the situation? Tiffany gestures toward Ava without even turning her head. Passengers in the wrong seat, refusing to move. Ruiz nods once, then looks at Ava. Really looks this time. Sees the blazer, the watch, the stillness. Something flickers. But it's gone just as fast. Mom, he says, voice firm, already halfway to a conclusion. I'm going to need you to gather your belongings. Ava doesn't move, doesn't reach, Doesn't argue, she just looks at him. Calm, unshaken. The entire cabin leans forward without realizing it. Phones raised, breath held, waiting, and somewhere beneath the tension, something begins to shift. Not loud, not obvious, but real. Because for the first time since this started, someone with authority is in the room, and he's about to make a decision that can't be undone. Ava doesn't reach for her bag. She doesn't even glance at it. Instead, she holds Officer Ruiz's gaze, steady, level, unhurried. The kind of eye contact that doesn't challenge, doesn't submit, just waits. For what reason? She asks. Her voice is quiet, but it lands harder than Tiffany's. Ruiz shifts his weight. Not much, just enough to register. "Ma'am, we've been informed you're not seated in your assigned section," he says. Tone practiced, official. "We need you to come with us so we can verify your ticket at the gate." "Verify it here," Ava replies. No hesitation. No rise in volume. Just a statement. Tiffany exhales sharply, stepping forward before Ruiz can respond. "She's already been given multiple opportunities to cooperate," she says, voice tight, controlled for the audience. "She's delaying the entire flight." Ethan's phone tilts closer, zoom tightening. "Here we go," he whispers. Security's stepping in. The viewer count climbs again. Margaret leans forward, eyes bright now. Anticipation, satisfaction. "This is exactly how it should be handled," she murmurs. Across the aisle, Sophia finally hits record. Her screen lights up, but her camera isn't pointed at Ava. It's pointed at Tiffany, at Ruiz, at the space between authority and assumption. Ruiz glances at Tiffany, then back at Ava. He's seen situations like this before. Loud passengers, arguments, delays, but something about this one doesn't fit cleanly. Still, procedure is procedure. "Ma'am," he says again, firmer now, "we can do this the easy way or the hard way." A faint sound moves through the cabin. Not quite a gasp, not quite a sigh, just tension tightening. Ava's fingers rest lightly on the edge of the tray table. Still, controlled. Her breathing remains even. "I'm not resisting," she says. "I'm asking you to do your job correctly." Ruiz's jaw tightens. That lands. Not disrespectful, but not compliant either. Behind him, the second officer shifts, hand brushing lightly against his belt. Not threatening. Just ready. Tiffany folds her arms, leaning slightly into the aisle, reclaiming space. "She's stalling," she says under her breath, but loud enough for the phones to catch. They always stall. Calvin exhales, shaking his head. "Man," he mutters, half to himself. Then louder, "You haven't even checked her ticket properly." Tiffany snaps toward him. "Sir," I said, "remain seated." "And I said I saw it," Calvin replies, voice firmer now. Not loud, but grounded. The cabin splits. You can feel it. Some shift in their seats, uncomfortable. Others lean forward, more engaged. Ethan keeps filming, but his narration slows. His confidence, not gone, but less certain. Ruiz raises a hand slightly, enough to quiet the crosstalk. "Let's keep this focused," he says. Then to Ava. "Do you have identification on you?" Ava nods once. "Yes." "Then I need you to present it." A beat. Ava's hand moves, slowly, not hesitant, deliberate. She reaches toward her bag, unzips it just enough to slip her fingers inside. Ruiz watches closely. The second officer straightens, attention sharpening. Phones tilt forward, every movement magnified. Ava pulls out a slim leather wallet. Black, worn just enough to suggest use, not display. She opens it. Inside, a flash of metal catches the light. A card. Not cheap, not ordinary. Platinum. It glints for half a second before she slides it aside and removes her ID. Ruiz's eyes flick down, then back up. Something registers. Not fully, not yet, but enough to slow him. Ava holds the ID out. He takes it, looks, reads. His brow tightens, just slightly. Behind him, Tiffany leans in. "It's probably fake," she says quickly. Too quickly. Ruiz doesn't respond. He looks at the ID again, then at Ava. Really looks now. The stillness, the composure, the absence of panic. People who lie don't look like this. People who bluff don't breathe like this. The cabin feels it, that shift, small but real. Sophia zooms in, whispering under her breath. "Wait." Ethan lowers his phone just a fraction. Margaret's smile falters. Ruiz hands the ID back slowly, carefully. "Do you have your boarding confirmation?" he asks. Ava reaches for her phone, unlocks it. 2 taps. She turns the screen toward him. The glow reflects in his eyes. Seat assignment, 2A, first class. Purchased, confirmed. Ruiz doesn't speak, not immediately, because now, for the first time, the story he was handed doesn't match what he's seeing, and everyone in that cabin can feel it. The narrative is cracking. Just a little, but enough. Enough for something dangerous to start forming. Doubt. Tiffany sees it. That hesitation. That crack. And she moves fast to seal it. "She could have doctored that," Tiffany says sharply, stepping closer, her voice cutting across the silence before it can settle. "We've had cases like this before. Fake confirmations, fake IDs. It's getting more common." Ruiz doesn't answer right away. His eyes stay on the phone screen for 1 more second. Then he straightens. "Procedure. Control." He hands the space back to authority. "Ma'am," he says, voice firmer now, louder for the room. "We still need to verify this through our system. I'm going to ask you again to step off the aircraft." There it is. The shift snaps back. Doubt replaced with direction. Tiffany exhales through her nose, satisfied. The room tilts back in her favor. Ethan lifts his phone again, confidence returning. "There it is," he murmurs. "Knew something was off." Margaret nods, lips tight with vindication. "You can always tell," she says. "Always." Sophia doesn't lower her camera, but her eyes narrow. She's not convinced, not anymore. Ava tilts her head slightly, just enough to acknowledge the decision, but not accept it. "You already have what you need," she says. Ruiz's jaw tightens. "Mom, this is not a negotiation." "No," Ava replies. "It's verification, and you've completed it." The words land clean, precise. Ruiz shifts his stance again, subtle but visible now. Behind him, the second officer glances between them, uncertain, because this isn't escalating the way it usually does. No shouting, no panic, no resistance, just control. Tiffany steps in again, voice sharper now, urgency creeping in. "Officer, she's refusing a direct instruction." "I'm not refusing," Ava says, eyes still on Ruiz. "I'm documenting. That word hangs. Documenting." Ethan pauses mid-whisper. Margaret frowns slightly. Sophia leans in closer. Ruiz's eyes flicker. "Documenting what?" he asks. Ava's phone vibrates again. Once, then again. She doesn't look at it this time. "I've sent 3 messages," she says calmly. "1 to my assistant, 1 to my legal team, and 1 to a contact who oversees corporate partnerships for this airline." Silence. Not loud, not dramatic, but heavy, because now the room is recalculating. Ethan lowers his voice. "Legal team," he repeats quietly, more to himself than his audience. Margaret shifts in her seat, adjusting her purse. Sophia's camera stays steady, but her breathing changes. Slower. Focused. Tiffany lets out a short laugh. Too sharp, too forced. "Everyone has a legal team these days," she says. "That doesn't mean anything." Ava doesn't look at her, doesn't even acknowledge her, which somehow feels worse. I also documented your statements, Ava continues, still speaking to Ruiz. The accusation of fraud, the refusal to verify properly, the public nature of this interaction. Ruiz inhales, slow, measured, because now this isn't just a removal. It's a record, and records have consequences. Tiffany feels it slipping again. You're overcomplicating this, she snaps. She's in the wrong seat. That's it. Ava finally turns her head, looks at Tiffany. Not angry, not offended. Just clear. My seat, Ava says quietly, is 2A. The words settle into the cabin like weight. Unmovable. Behind them, Calvin crosses his arms fully now, no longer halfway standing. That's what I saw, he says, voice steady. Clear as day. Sophia nods slightly, almost to herself. Ethan doesn't speak. Not this time. Ruiz rubs the back of his neck briefly, then drops his hand. A tell. Small, but real. He looks toward the front of the cabin, toward the open door, toward the next level of authority. Because now, this is bigger than a seat dispute, bigger than a delay, bigger than a single decision he can quietly make. He exhales, then reaches for his radio. Ground control, he says, voice low but firm. We need a supervisor on board. Passenger verification issue in first class. Tiffany's head snaps toward him. We don't need a supervisor, she says quickly. Too quickly. This is already handled. Ruiz doesn't look at her. Because now, he's not sure it is. And somewhere in the cabin, beneath the tension, beneath the watching phones, beneath the quiet judgments, the balance of power shifts again. Not all at once, but enough. Enough that the outcome is no longer certain. Enough that the wrong move from anyone could change everything. The footsteps come fast this time, measured, heavy, intentional. A man appears at the aircraft door, clipboard in hand, uniform pressed sharp enough to cut. Brian Fletcher, late 40s, senior flight manager. The kind of authority that doesn't ask questions first. It assesses, then decides. What's the delay? He asks, scanning the cabin in one sweep. Tiffany steps forward immediately, relief flashing across her face. Reinforcements, control. Passenger in the wrong seat, refusing to move, she says, voice smooth now, professional again. Clean. Rehearsed. Brian nods once. Then his eyes land on Ava. He pauses. Not long, but long enough, because she doesn't look like what he expected. No raised voice, no agitation, no scene, just stillness. Ma'am, he says, stepping closer. I need to see your boarding pass and identification. Ava hands both over without a word. The exchange is quiet, efficient. Brian studies the documents carefully. Longer than Tiffany did. Longer than Ruiz. Seat 2A, first class. Purchased, confirmed. He flips the ID. Reads the name. Ava Mitchell. He looks up. Then back down. Then up again. Something doesn't add up. Not the documents, the situation. Because if this is real, then everything that happened before this moment is already a problem. But he doesn't say that. Not yet. These appear legitimate, he says slowly. Tiffany's smile tightens. But, Brian continues, turning slightly, projecting authority back into the room. We've had incidents involving high-quality forgeries. We still need to verify through our system. There it is. A lifeline. Tiffany exhales. Ruiz watches. Sophia leans closer. Ethan adjusts his angle. Margaret nods again, reassured. The narrative stabilizes. For now. Ava doesn't interrupt, doesn't argue. She simply waits. Brian pulls out his tablet, tapping quickly, pulling up the airline's internal system. Passenger database, booking records, loyalty status. His fingers move fast. confident. Then they slow, just slightly. He scrolls, pauses, scrolls again. A faint crease forms between his brows. "What's the issue?" Tiffany asks, too quickly. Brian doesn't answer right away, because what he's seeing doesn't match what he expected. The name is there. Ava Mitchell. Seat 2A. Confirmed. No flags, no alerts, but the profile feels incomplete. Limited flight history, minimal visible activity. For someone sitting in first class on a ticket like this, it doesn't fit his pattern. And Brian Fletcher trusts patterns more than people. He looks up again, studies her. The blazer, understated. The watch, expensive but not flashy. The posture, controlled. Too controlled. He's seen wealthy passengers. They signal it. They carry it loudly. This is quiet. Calculated. And that makes him suspicious. "Ma'am," he says, voice tightening slightly. "Did you purchase this ticket directly?" "Yes." "Through our website?" "Yes." "Do you have the confirmation number?" Ava tilts her head, almost imperceptibly. "Would you like me to read it to you?" she asks. "Or would you prefer to continue searching?" A pause. Short, but sharp. Sophia's lips part slightly. Ethan doesn't speak. Margaret shifts again. Because that didn't sound defensive. It sounded controlled. Brian's jaw sets. He taps the screen again, harder this time. Because now he's committed. And backing down in front of a full cabin is not something he does. "We're seeing some irregularities," he says finally. The words land, carefully chosen, vague enough to justify, strong enough to hold. Tiffany nods immediately. Exactly. Ruiz's expression tightens, because he knows that word doesn't mean anything specific. Not yet. Ava's phone vibrates again. This time she picks it up, glances at the screen. 3 messages, 3 confirmations. Received. Her thumb taps once. Reply sent. She places the phone back down. Face calm, eyes steady. 4 minutes until departure, Brian says, louder now, reclaiming the room. "We need to resolve this immediately." He looks at Ava. Decision made. "Given the circumstances," he continues, "I'm going to ask you to deplane for further verification. We'll rebook you on the next available flight." There it is. The moment, clear. Final. Irreversible, or so he thinks. The cabin holds its breath. Phones steady, eyes locked, waiting. Because something about Ava, the stillness, the control, the complete absence of fear, doesn't match someone who's about to lose. Not even close. Ava leans forward slightly, just enough. Her hand moves toward her blazer. Slow, deliberate, and for the first time, there's a shift in the air that no one can explain. Because whatever she's about to do is not going to follow the script they've all been watching. Her fingers slip inside the inner pocket of her blazer. No rush, no hesitation. Every eye in the cabin locks onto that movement. Phones tilt forward. Screens glow brighter. Breath tightens across rows. Tiffany's lips press into a thin line. What is she doing now? She mutters, just loud enough to be caught on 3 different recordings. Ruiz shifts his stance. Subtle. Ready. Brian watches closely, chin slightly raised, already bracing for whatever this is supposed to be. Ava pulls out a slim black leather card holder. Nothing flashy. No logos screaming for attention. Just quiet wait. She opens it, slides out a single card, places it face down on the tray table, then rests her fingers lightly on top of it. The motion is precise, intentional, controlled. "Mr. Fletcher," she says. For the first time, she uses his name. It lands differently. Not as a request, as a calibration. "Before you make a decision you can't reverse," she continues, voice calm, steady. carrying across the cabin without rising. "I suggest you ask Captain Michael Grant to come speak with me. Personally." Brian doesn't look at the card. Not yet. His eyes stay on her. "Assessing, calculating. I have full authority to resolve passenger issues," he says. "Firm, measured, slight edge creeping in." "I'm sure you do," Ava replies. "But some decisions require a different level of awareness. A flicker. There, small, but real." Tiffany scoffs, louder this time. "She's stalling," she says, turning slightly toward the cabin again. "Classic move." Ethan murmurs into his phone, but his tone has changed. Less certain. "She just pulled out, I don't know, like a business card or something." Sophia zooms in. The edge of the card catches the light. Gold, embossed. But she can't read it from this angle. Not yet. Ruiz steps closer. "Mom, we need to proceed," he says. Not harsh, but firmer now. "You can discuss anything further off the aircraft." Ava doesn't look at him. Her eyes stay on Brian. "Call the captain," she says. Still calm, still controlled. But now, there's something underneath. Not pressure, not fear. Certainty. Brian exhales slowly. The cabin feels it. That hesitation again. Because this is not normal. Passengers don't speak like this. They argue. They plead. They escalate. They don't anchor. Behind him, Sarah Whitman appears from the cockpit corridor. Early 40s. Senior flight attendant. Professional. Composed. "Brian," she says quietly, stepping closer. The captain's asking for an update. Tower's getting impatient. Brian doesn't turn. "Tell him we're handling it," he replies. Sarah hesitates, then lowers her voice further. "He specifically asked about seat 2A. That lands. Hard." Brian's head turns. Slowly. "How would he?" "I don't know," Sarah says. But he said immediately. Silence ripples through the space. Ethan's whisper cuts off mid-sentence. Margaret's fingers tighten around her purse. Sophia leans forward even more, heart starting to pound now. Ruiz looks between them, reading the shift. Because now this isn't just internal. The cockpit is involved. Brian glances back at Ava. Her fingers are still resting on the card, unmoved, unshaken, waiting, not for permission, for recognition. He swallows once, subtle but visible, then nods, sharp, decisive. "Hold position," he says to Ruiz. "I'll speak with the captain." He turns, walks toward the cockpit. His steps are faster now, less controlled, because something is off. And he can feel it slipping. The cabin watches him go. Every phone tracking, every eye following. As the cockpit door closes behind him, Ava lifts her fingers. Just slightly. The card remains on the tray, face up now. For a brief moment, the gold lettering catches the light. Sophia sees it first. Her breath stops. Her eyes widen. "Oh my God," she whispers. Calvin leans closer. "What?" She shakes her head. Can't speak, can't process it fast enough. Ethan zooms in harder, but his angle is wrong. Margaret squints. Tiffany steps forward, trying to regain control. Whatever that is, it doesn't change. She stops, because for the first time, she notices the room. Really notices it. The silence, the tension, the shift, and the fact that no one, not one person, is looking at her anymore. They're all looking at the card. Waiting. Because something just changed, and they can feel it, even if they don't understand it yet. The cockpit door opens, not slowly, not carefully. It swings wide. Brian steps out first, and he doesn't look the same. The color is gone from his face, his posture still upright, but something underneath it has cracked, not broken, not yet, but strained. Behind him, Captain Michael Grant appears, late 50s, silver hair, 30 years in the air etched into every line of his face. A man who has seen emergencies, storms, failures at 30,000 feet, and never once lost control. Until now, his eyes find Ava immediately, not scanning, not searching, locked. And then he stops, mid-step, like he just walked into something far more dangerous than turbulence. "Everyone step back from that row," he says. His voice is low, but absolute, no room for interpretation. Ruiz reacts first. Instinct. He pulls back half a step, then another, motioning his partner to do the same. Tiffany freezes. "Captain, we're in the middle of—" "Step back," Grant repeats, sharper this time. She steps back, because now the authority in the room has shifted completely, and everyone feels it. Phones tilt higher, breath tightens. The cabin is silent. Grant moves forward, slow, measured, like approaching something volatile. He stops beside Ava's seat, looks down, really looks. Not at her clothes, not at her posture, at her. Recognition hits, hard. It flashes across his face before he can stop it. Shock. Then something deeper, something closer to fear. "Mom," he says, voice quieter now, almost careful. "I sincerely apologize. There's been a misunderstanding." The words ripple through the cabin. Misunderstanding. Just minutes ago, this was fraud. Now, it's a misunderstanding. Ethan lowers his phone slightly, whispering, "Wait, what just happened?" Margaret blinks, her confidence dissolving inch by inch. Sophia doesn't move. Her camera stays locked, but her expression has changed completely because she knows, or at least she's starting to. Ava looks up at the captain. Same calm, same control, but now there's something else. Not victory, authority. "Captain Grant," she says, her voice soft but carrying, "I appreciate your presence, but I think we've moved beyond a simple misunderstanding." She gestures. Not dramatically. Just a small movement of her hand, toward the cabin, toward the phones, toward the dozens of lenses pointed at this moment. This entire interaction, she continues, has been documented. Multiple angles, live streams, recorded statements. Grant's jaw tightens, because now he sees it, not just the situation, the scale, the damage. Every second of this is already out there, spreading, multiplying, permanent. Brian stands behind him, silent, not intervening, not correcting, because whatever he thought he was managing, he's not anymore. Ava reaches forward, picks up the card, holds it between her fingers. Then she turns it, faces it outward, so everyone can see. The gold lettering catches the light. Clean, sharp, unmistakable. Mitchell Aerotech Holdings. Dr. Ava Mitchell, Chief Executive Officer, Founder, Primary Contractor, Commercial Aviation Division. The words hang in the air, heavy, unavoidable. Ethan reads it out loud without meaning to. His voice cracks halfway through. Chief Executive Officer. Silence. Complete. Total. Margaret's hand slowly lowers into her lap. Sophia's breath leaves her in a whisper. "No way," Calvan leans back, shaking his head once. Not surprised. Just confirmed. Tiffany stares, eyes locked on the card. Processing. Failing. Because this doesn't fit anything she built in her mind. Grant doesn't move, because he understands exactly what this means. Mitchell Aerotech, one of the largest aircraft leasing firms in the country, billions in assets, contracts tied directly to airlines like his. To planes like this one. Ava lowers the card slightly, but keeps it visible, keeps the truth in the air. "Captain," she says, tone steady, precise. "This aircraft, tail number November 847 Whiskey Alpha, is currently under lease from my company." Grant closes his eyes for half a second. Just enough. Just long enough. When he opens them, the situation is no longer ambiguous, not even close. This is not a misunderstanding, Ava continues. It's a liability. And for the first time since this began, no one in that cabin is thinking about seats anymore. They're thinking about consequences. No one moves. No one even breathes the same way. The air inside the cabin feels heavier, thicker, like the pressure dropped without warning. Captain Grant straightens slowly, but the authority he carried moments ago has shifted. Not gone. Just redirected. Toward her. "Dr. Mitchell," he says, voice controlled, but quieter now, measured with care. "I had no prior knowledge you were on this flight." Ava studies him for a second. Not cold, not warm, just precise. "That's the point," she replies. The words land clean. Because now, this is no longer about her identity. It's about how she was treated before anyone knew it. Behind him, Brian's fingers tighten around his clipboard. His knuckles whiten slightly. He's doing the math. Fast. Contracts, liability, exposure. Every decision he made in the last 10 minutes, stacking up like weight he can't set down. Tiffany takes a small step back, then another. Her voice, when it comes, is thinner. This doesn't make sense," she says. "Anyone can print a card like that." No one laughs. No one agrees. Even she hears it. Ava turns her head slightly, finally acknowledging her. "Would you like verification?" Ava asks. Still calm, still controlled. But now, there's steel underneath. She reaches for her phone, unlocks it. A few taps, then turns the screen outward. A secure dashboard glows against the dim cabin light. Aircraft registry, lease agreements, tail number, November 847, Whiskey Alpha, listed clearly, owned by Mitchell Aerotech Holdings, leased to this airline, annual contract value, $2.3 million. Grant leans in, close enough to read, close enough to confirm. His face drains further. Because there's no arguing with this, no explaining it away, no reframing the narrative. This is fact. Sophia covers her mouth with her hand, whispering under her breath. Oh my God, Ethan's phone dips, not lowered, but no longer steady. Wait, is she? He stammers, voice no longer confident enough to narrate. Margaret stares straight ahead now, avoiding eye contact with anyone, especially Ava. Calvin exhales slowly, leaning back into his seat, arms crossing. "Told you," he murmurs. Tiffany shakes her head, backing into the aisle. "This has to be some kind of setup," she says, but the conviction is gone. Hollow. Ava doesn't look at her again, because she doesn't need to. "Captain," Ava continues, turning her attention back to Grant, "my company currently leases 67 aircraft to your airline and its subsidiaries. Each word lands like a measured strike. 34% of your operational fleet." Brian's breath catches, audible, because now the scale is no longer abstract. It's operational, structural, critical. Ava doesn't stop. Additionally, she says, tapping her screen once, Mitchell Aerotech provides maintenance contracts for 23 additional aircraft. Grant swallows. Hard. His mind is racing, not through the incident, through the consequences, regulatory, financial, reputational, and above all, contractual. "Dr. Mitchell," he begins, voice tighter now, "we will address this immediately." "This is already being addressed," Ava says. She gestures slightly, toward the phones, toward the recording, toward the silent, watching cabin. "Approximately 800 viewers across multiple platforms," she says, and rising. Ethan's screen reflects it, numbers climbing, comments flooding, Sophia's live feed growing, the moment expanding beyond the aircraft, beyond the airport, into something much larger. Grant closes his eyes briefly, then opens them. Because now this is no longer an internal issue. It's public, it's visible, it's permanent. Ava steps forward just slightly, not to intimidate, but to anchor. "To be clear," she says, voice steady, cutting through the silence with precision, "I was accused of fraud. My identification was questioned, I was publicly humiliated, and I was nearly removed from an aircraft my company owns. No one interrupts, no one dares, because every word is true. And everyone in that cabin knows it." Tiffany's shoulders drop. Brian doesn't speak. Ruiz looks down, and Captain Grant stands in the center of it all, realizing that this is no longer about fixing a mistake. It's about surviving it. And the next move won't be his. Not anymore. Brian finds his voice first, barely. Even if that's accurate, he says, words catching slightly as they come out, it doesn't change the fact that you refused crew instructions. The sentence hangs there. Fragile, desperate. A last attempt to hold on to something that still looks like authority. Ava turns to him slowly. Not sharp, not aggressive, but deliberate enough that the entire cabin follows the movement. "Mr. Fletcher," she says, his name again. Measured. Exact. "Let's be very clear about what actually happened here." Her tone doesn't rise, but it tightens, and when it does, the room leans in. "Your employee publicly accused me of fraud," Ava continues, "without verification, without cause, based solely on assumption. Each word lands like evidence placed on a table, in front of a full cabin, while being recorded." Brian opens his mouth, closes it, because there's no interruption that won't make this worse. Ava doesn't pause. She then escalated the situation by calling security, again, without completing standard verification procedures. Ruiz shifts his weight, subtle but visible, because he knows. She's right. Ava's gaze flicks briefly toward him, not accusatory, just inclusive. "You were asked to enforce removal," she continues, "based on incomplete and inaccurate information." Ruiz exhales quietly, eyes lowering for half a second. Ava turns back to Brian. "And then you arrived," she says. "Reviewed valid documentation, confirmed the seat assignment, and still chose to remove me." Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Sophia's recording hand steadies. Ethan doesn't speak anymore. Margaret stares at her lap. Calvan nods once. Slow. Because now, this isn't tension. It's clarity. Ava lifts her phone again. A few taps. Then she angles the screen toward Brian. A digital document. Structured. Precise. "Your airline's passenger service manual," she says. Section 12.4. Brian freezes. Because he knows that section. Everyone in operations does. Crew members are required to verify passenger documentation through official systems before making any public accusation of fraud or misrepresentation. She lets the word sit. Then, was that protocol followed? Brian doesn't answer. Can't, because the answer is already in the room, in the recordings, in the silence. Ava scrolls once. Another section. "Employee conduct policy," she continues, "updated 6 months ago." Tiffany's head lifts slightly. Too late. Staff are prohibited from recording or broadcasting passenger interactions without explicit consent. Ava's eyes shift to her. Finally. Fully. "And yet," she says, "this entire interaction was streamed in real time." Tiffany's breath catches. Her hands move instinctively toward her phone, but it's still live, still recording, still transmitting. Hundreds, maybe more, watching her unravel. "Turn it off," Brian mutters under his breath. Tiffany fumbles. The screen shakes. Then goes dark. Too late. Far too late. Ava straightens, just slightly, not towering, but grounded, unmovable. This is no longer a customer service issue, she says. Her voice is calm, but now it carries weight that fills the entire cabin. This is a corporate liability issue, a legal exposure issue, and a public accountability issue. Each phrase lands harder than the last. Brian's grip on his clipboard loosens, then tightens again, because he feels it. The collapse. Not loud, not explosive, just inevitable. Ava's phone vibrates again. She glances at it. This time she answers. "Mitchell," she says. No introduction, no explanation. She listens for a second, then, "Yes, I'm aware. I'm still on the aircraft." A pause. The cabin listens. Every word. "Yes," she continues. "The entire incident has been documented." Another pause. Her eyes don't leave Brian. "Prepare a full exposure report," she says, "and review all active contracts with this airline." Brian's face drains. Completely. Because now, this isn't internal anymore. This isn't damage control. This is escalation. Real. Immediate. Unstoppable. Ava ends the call, places the phone down, looks directly at Captain Grant. "Your move," she says. Simple, quiet, final. And for the first time since this began, no one in that cabin is questioning who's in control. They already know. Captain Grant doesn't hesitate this time. He turns. Sharp, decisive. "Brian," he says, voice low but cutting. "Step aside. No debate. No discussion." Brian steps back. Not because he agrees, because he understands. Tiffany stands frozen, hand still half raised from where she tried to kill the stream. Her eyes move between them, searching for something to hold on to. There's nothing left. Grant exhales once, steadying himself. Then he reaches for his phone, dials, puts it on speaker. "This is Captain Michael Grant, employee ID 4847, he says. "I need immediate executive escalation. Passenger incident involving Dr. Ava Mitchell." Silence on the line. Then a voice, controlled, tight. "Did you say Ava Mitchell?" "Yes." Another pause, longer, heavier. "Put her on." Grant doesn't look at anyone else. He hands the phone to Ava. No ceremony, no resistance. Ava takes it. Smooth, effortless. "This is Ava," she says. No title, no explanation. She doesn't need it. The voice on the other end shifts instantly. "Dr. Mitchell, on behalf of the company, I—" Ava lifts her hand slightly, stops him. "Let's focus on actions," she says. The cabin feels it. That tone, not angry, not emotional, just absolute. "I want immediate termination of the employee who initiated this interaction," Ava continues. "Suspension and retraining for supervisory staff involved. And a public statement acknowledging discriminatory conduct. No hesitation, no softening, just terms." The voice on the phone answers quickly. Done. No negotiation, no delay. Because now they understand exactly what's at stake. Ava doesn't stop. "I also want updated verification protocols," she says. "Mandatory bias training, and real-time incident reporting tied directly to executive oversight." Another pause. Short. Then, agreed. The word echoes. Final. Binding. Ava hands the phone back. Grant takes it carefully, like it weighs more than it should. "Anything else, Captain?" the voice asks. Grant looks at Ava. Just for a second. She gives the smallest nod. "Nothing further," he says. The call ends. Silence fills the cabin again. But it's different now. Not tense. Not uncertain. Resolved. Tiffany's shoulders drop. Completely. There's no anger left in her face. No defense. Just realization. Ruiz steps back fully, hands away from his belt now. The posture of enforcement replaced by something quieter. Awareness. Brian doesn't move. Doesn't speak. Because there's nothing left for him to manage. Grant turns to the cabin, straightens, finds his voice again. "Ladies and gentlemen," he says, "we sincerely apologize for the delay and for what you've witnessed today." His eyes flick briefly toward Ava, then back. "This situation did not reflect our standards. It will be addressed. No excuses. No deflection. Just truth." Calvin nods once. Sophia lowers her phone slowly, her expression thoughtful now. Ethan finally drops his arm, staring at the screen like he's seeing something different than what he expected. Margaret wipes her hands against her skirt, avoiding every gaze around her. Ava stands, not rushed, not dramatic. She looks at the cabin, at the people who watched, some who spoke, some who didn't. "This wasn't about me," she says. Her voice is calm, but it carries further than anything before. It was about what happens when assumptions replace facts. When systems fail the people they're meant to serve. She lets that settle. No one interrupts. "Change doesn't happen because someone powerful is involved," she continues. "It happens when the standard is raised for everyone." A beat. Quiet. Then she sits back down. Seat 2A, exactly where she started, exactly where she belonged. Outside the window, the runway stretches ahead. Clear. Ready. The aircraft begins to move, slow at first, then steady, and as it rolls forward, something else moves with it. Not just passengers, not just a flight, a shift, a line drawn, a standard reset. If this story moved you, take a moment to like and subscribe so more voices like this can be heard. And in the comments, write 3 simple words that stay with you. Respect, truth, accountability.